Greetings, Iain from RTO here. Welcome to the final part of Marillion Day. And this is Battle of the Debuts, normally on a Thursday, but today it's on a Wednesday. And because it's a Marillion Day, it's obvious what we're going to do. We are going to have Marillion's first album with Steve Hogarth against Fish's first solo album. So, after that Fish left Marillion, they started looking for a new singer, and they found Steve Hogarth, who was a former keyboardist and vocalist of a band called the Europeans, and the duo called How We Live. So Hogarth apparently first stepped into Pete Javafa's garage on the 24th of January 1989 and got the job 3 months later. The group had already recorded some demos, which was some of the songs that were on the extra bits from Clutching at Straws, so they had to do some writing, and he'd never owned a Marillion album before he joined, so that's what happened. So Season's End is the 5th album, and it was released in 1989. And the band then was Steve Hogarth on vocals, Steve Rothery guitars, Peter Dravavas on the bass, Mark Kelly on keyboards, and Ian Mosley on the drums, and on saxophone we have Phil Todd on Berlin and Jean-Pierre Rassel on pipes on Easter. And the album was produced by Marillion and Nick Davis. So the first track on here is called The Kings of Sunset Town. I love how this builds up. It's that nice keyboard, and then you get a bit of a solo from Steve, and then you get the first lyrics of Steve Hogarth. Great song. I like that song. Always have from the minute I heard it. Then we get Easter. Fantastic song. Classic now. One of Steve Hogarth's finest vocals and one of Steve Rothery's finest guitar solos. Truly amazing song. The Uninvited Guest. Love this. I love the video to this because you've got Steve Hogarth and the split personality, and you can tell that in the vocal as well. Really catchy tune, like that a lot. Then we get Season's End as the title track. This is the best song on this album. It's one of the best songs written by Marillion. I just love it. It's quite an atmospheric piece. Still got that prog elements to it. It's a fantastic piece of music. Full stop. Then we move on to side 2. First track on side 2 was Holloway Girl. Classic bass line from Pete. Really good song. Great stuff. Then we get Berlin. Love this song. The sax solo in this is brilliant. And you get the bit towards the end. The guitar solo is great. And that very good solo. Very similar to the Web sort of ending. Really good. After Me. Probably the weakest track on the album. Not a great lover of this. Then we get the first thing we ever heard with the new singer, as it was. Remember seeing this on Top of the Pops. It just sounded weird not having Fish there. But I love Hooks in You. I love the keyboard work from Mark Kelly. It's a great little rocky pop song like that. Then we get The Space. Another masterpiece. I love the keyboards from Mark. And it's got the vocal at the end from Steve Hogarth. Amazing. And the thing is, he can still sing it today. There's a great version of this on the Live at the Royal Albert Hall. You know, he looks after his voice. Great way to end the album, and it is a classic from Marillion. So what do I think? Well, that's a pretty first good outing from Steve Hogarth. Okay, he didn't. Most of the music had been written. but they had to add a few lyrics and that, and I think they did a half decent job, and it's a very good album. I can't deny that. So what did the critics fall? So first one that said something was Mick Wall, big fan of Marillion, writing in Kerrang, stated, vocally and lyrically of course, we find ourselves on new ground. Hogarth certainly got a voice, smooth as glass, emotive as hell. And in common with the most famous predecessor, it's a very un-American vocal. The vowel are all in the Queen's English. There have been comparisons, and Steve Hogarth is no Fish clone, he's no Peter Gabriel or Phil Collins either. He doesn't need to be, he's got a voice of his own. When you listen to it, like tracks Easter and Seasons Wind and After Me, you can always forget the band ever had a other singer. So what did it? So AllMusic gave it 4 and a bit stars. Hi-Fi News gave it a 2. Progressive World Net gave it 5 stars. Sputnik Music 3.7 out of 5. How did it do in the charts? Did quite well all over Europe. Got to number 7 here in the UK. In the Netherlands, it got to number 20. Germany 11. Norway 20. Sweden 28. And Switzerland 11. And actually got a certification of gold status here in the UK. So let's have a look at the nuts and bolts. Song quality. Musically, they'd written all this with Fish. Great. The lyrics are good. There's some really nice lyrics. You know, considering Fish is no longer with them, they could still write some great lyrics, and they still write great lyrics. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Production, very good production again. I've got no problem with it. It's, you know, it may be the end of the 80s, but there's no this nonsense on it. It's just pure music. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Reception went down really well. It's always a bit of apprehension when you've got a new singer in a very well established band, and a band that was very dear to many people, but the fans received it very well, me being one of them. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Cover design, well, Mark Wilkinson left the camp completely, so I think they could have done a little bit better. It's I sort of get the idea of the 4 different seasons, but it's not very clear, and I think Marillion being written in that blue gets lost in the cover. So I shall give it a 3 out of 5. So for Season's End by Marillion gives us a total of 15 out of 20. So let's move on to the gentleman that left Marillion, Derek Dick, known to us as affectionately as Fish. So he left in 1988. Now, he'd done a lot of these recordings as early as June 1989, but EMI, who Fish was still contracted to, decided to delay this until after the Marillion album that was released in the September. But they did let him release State of Mind, that featured guitarist Hal Lyons from Dire Straits and John Keeble from Spandau Ballet on the drums. They released that in October. Big Wedge actually came out in December, but the album was not released until 1990. And on it was Fish on the vocals, Frank Usher played guitars on some of the tracks, Hal Lyons played on some of them, Yannick Gears from Iron Maiden and Iain from the Gillan Band played on it, John Gilbin did the bass, Mickey Simmons was keyboards and piano, Davey Pasolini was pipes and whistles, Phil Cunningham was whistles and accordion, Ally Byne played violin along with Gavin Wright and Alison Jones, Mark Brzezinski drums from Big Country, and John Keeble's Spandau Ballet. Tessa Niles did some backing vocals like she did on Clutching at Straws along with Carol Kenyon, and the producer was John Kelly. First track is Vigil. Love this. It's my favourite song on the album. Very Celtic sort of feeling to it. It's a really nice song. Really like that one. Big Wedge is next. A little bit different departure, really. We weren't used to this sort of brassy sound or horns from Fish, but he's basically taking the mickey out of the American Bible belt, give us your money and all that sort of nonsense. And it became quite a fan favourite. Then we get State of Mind, the first track we ever heard from Fish as a solo artist. Love the bass line in this. It's a pretty cool track. Still one of my favourites. Then we get The Company, classic song, a bit of a sing-along song. The fans love this because it's enough about us, really. The best version of this was though he did that acoustic tour back in the 90s, and when he did this, instead of the keyboard bit, the fans everywhere just did their whoa 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 whoa. It's a great song. Then we get the wonderful A Gentleman's Excuse Me. A wonderful song. Lovely hearing this live. Very, very good track. Then we get the Voyeur, I Like to Watch. Great little track this is. Quite a quirky little thing. Then we get Family Business, very dark song. The lyrics very strong, like that. Then we get A View from the Hill, which is co-wrote by Yannick Gears. Song of Two Halves starts off very slowly, and then all of a sudden it builds up into this great song. Really strong song again. Then we get the last track, Cliché. I love this. It's Frank Usher. I think Frank Usher plays the guitars on this one. Just track, yeah. Frank Usher. Great, great. Solo. Brilliant. What do I think of this? I love this album. It's my favourite Fish solo album, without a doubt. Very, again, the anticipation for this coming out. Would it be as good? Yeah, of course it was. We loved it. Absolutely brilliant. But what did the critics? Well, there's not much been written about it. But it was the only release that he did with EMI, and the most commercially successful. So how did he do in the charts? Well, here in the UK, he got number 5, Switzerland number 6, Sweden 14, Norway 9, Germany 6, and Holland number 20. End of year chart performance. There wasn't any, because I put something in and it's nothing to do with this. What a wally. There you go. So let's look at the nuts and bolts of this one. Song quality. Fish. Still great lyrics. Still, he wrote amazing lyrics right up to the end. And so I'm going to give it 5 out of 5. Production, wonderful production. When you listen to it now, it doesn't date. It's crisp and clear as usual. So I'm going to give that a 4 out of 5. Reception, well, it got higher in the charts than the Marillion song. I mean, this was at number 5. And we'll just go check, and the Marillion was at number 7, so it went up 2 more places. So I'm going to give this reception a 4 out of 5. Cover design, It's brilliant. It's Mark Wilkinson. Mark Wilkinson's album covers are always great. Doesn't matter who he does covers for, they're all superb. So cover design gets a 5 out of 5 from me. So for A Vigil in the Wilderness of Mirrors, gives us a grand total of 18 out of 20. So according to the points, it is a win for Fish. I love both albums. My loyalty stayed with both bands, with Fish and Marillion. I love all their albums, but against putting these two head to head, which one do I prefer? It's the Fish album. I love this album, and I will always love this album. I think it's just the lyrics are brilliant. The music on the Marillion album, Season's End, is brilliant, but it took Marillion a little while to get into the swing of writing their own lyrics. They're brilliant at it now, but at the start they hadn't had to do it, and they did a grand job. But this is Fish poetry in motion. So that is why I'm going to give it to Fish. But you may disagree with me. You know the drill. It's obviously there's no live stream tonight, so if you want to vote for this one, you've got to do it on the community, or go on to Twitter and find us on Twitter, and it'll be on there, or you just do it in the community. So I hope you've enjoyed your little bit of Marillion, because I know there's a lot of Marillion fans out there. So that's all for today. Got another little bit tomorrow for you. I'm going to do an album ranking of Russell Allen and Annette Olsen, 2 albums. I mean, they put out a new album this year, but I didn't get round to actually doing a review on it, so I thought I'll do it tomorrow, but do an album ranking with their first album. And tomorrow we have got one of the schedules, and that's Pick and Mix and a trip down memory lane. And we're going to look at the top 10 singles for the 29th of December 1984. So I will see you all tomorrow. And don't forget, there is no live stream this week because I'm doing other things. So bye for now.